Hi Pacers fans, and welcome into the Sideline Guys Powered by Gainbridge alongside Jeremiah Johnson. I'm Pat Boylan. We are noting that this week's podcast comes with a video component, so if you are listening to it, make sure to head on over to Pacers YouTube and catch the video portion of this, and that is because we are with Pacers center Myles Turner, who just signed a 2-year extension with the Indiana Pacers. And Myles, you said it was your belief in the city, the franchise, and ultimately the guys in that locker room that were the prevailing reasons for you signing this deal. So what goes through your head now that pen has hit paper and you do know at least your near future?
Relief, man. I think that's the biggest thing, is just to go out here and just hoop, play basketball with my guys, man. I think that we have such an exciting group, and, we've experienced, some success and, some lows, but being in this low portion is going to make it so much worth it when we're back at the top of that success and whatnot. And that's the message I've been trying to get across with my guys, man. And just believing in that message right there was easy for me to, make this decision.
You say it was a little bit relief. This has been probably your best season as a pro, so by no means has any of this seemingly at least been weighing on your performance, but how helpful is this to have it behind you, to know your immediate future and to know not only what the next 30-plus games are going to look like, but the next couple of years? Yeah,
man, I think it's everything through the season especially. All I really know is work, man. You put your head down to work and all the outside noise will kind of just kill itself. I think that's something I've really held true to, and just patience. Patience with the process and to be able to appreciate every part of this process. So, I have zero regrets in my decision, zero regrets in anything that's happened to me, my 8-year career, and I'm just happy to say that I'm here now.
This is not your first contract to be signed. I think back to maybe even signing a letter of intent to go to college. That had to be a big moment for you, but 8th year in the NBA, to get this contract and get to the point where you look at your draft class, and there are a lot of guys that were drafted ahead of you, behind you, that are no longer playing in the NBA. So is there some satisfaction and just a personal sense of joy for where you're at right now?
Definitely. I think I came up with a lot of those guys, especially in the high school realm of basketball. And it's not easy, to stay around this league. You get your rookie contract or, your two-way or whatever it may be when you get drafted. And it's about just how hard you go if you stick or not. Some people experience some luck early. Some people experience their moment, their opportunity. But, for me personally, I just wanted to make sure I just did things the right way. And that's the beautiful thing about being able to sign this contract, is I know I did things the right way, and I know I did things the way they were supposed to be done. So the fact that I'm still around is just a testament to, the way I approach things and the way I work.
Full disclosure, you've been talking now for about an hour and a half. You had the press conference, you had various media interviews, radio as well. So some of these questions you may have already addressed, but we'll do our best to come up with some original content. And in thinking back to your time with the Pacers, I immediately go back to before you were drafted, and so much attention was on that workout with Frank Kaminsky. Do you remember that still vividly? And was there a point after that workout where you said, I like it here, I could see myself being a member of the Pacers?
Yeah, man, I think that workout was one of my better workouts, during my draft process. I did about 10 workouts, and that was one of the ones that stuck out the most to me. I think just seeing the legends in that room that day was a big thing for me. You had Larry Bird there, you had Donnie Walsh. I mean, I'm gonna call Frank Vogel, a legend himself. Won a championship, one of my favorite coaches. You had a lot of people in that room. So like you just felt it. You kind of felt the basketball spirit and like this, what that vibe was in that room. And that was something that really stuck with me. You don't get to see that everywhere you go, especially during the draft process. So it was a special connection I had with the city.
We heard about it after the fact and even talked with you, I think, immediately after. But was the workout as good as everyone said it was?
Absolutely. I mean, you see it's on my chest, man.
Exactly.
It was a great workout for me. And I spent a lot of that process going at, guys that are projected to be above me, or, guys that were, supposed to be this, and that. But same thing, even during that process, put my head down and worked, and, the rest spoke for itself.
I remember being there at the end of that day and thinking, well, it might turn out now that Myles doesn't make it to where the Pacers are being selected because of that workout. So it's funny looking back on it. I want to look back at maybe the last year or so, because when you think of where you were at this time last year, you were dealing with an injury that I think had just happened or maybe was just about to happen. You weren't playing your natural position at 5. The Pacers were going through a little bit of a frustrating season at the time. Can you just think to how much has changed in the last 365 days now? You're flourishing at the 5, how important Tyrese Halliburton has been to this franchise, and where the Pacers as a whole stand.
Yeah, man, so much can change in a year. So much has happened in a year, like you said, and it just makes this day so worth it. The fact that things weren't always the best. The situation wasn't always the best looking back at it, hindsight. But, I made the best out of that situation, the best out of my situations. Even those times I played out of position, I was still learning the game, still growing the game, and still seeing, now at the 5, I can see what the 4 does, because I was in that position. So, it just makes everything so much worth it. I really think that I'm happy, everything happened the way it did. I'm happy that I'm still here, in the Indiana Pacers uniform where I started, and I'm just happy to grow. And
unfortunately, you weren't healthy for the end of last year. So you're going into training camp. You haven't had a ton of time with guys like Tyrese, and you're adjusting, if you can call it that, back to your normal position. Was it kind of like riding a bike? Like, did you get right back into the 5 spot and it was, here we go? Or did that actually take some acclimating to get back?
No, it actually took some acclimating because, you spend so much time at the perimeter, then you tend to float out there, then you got to realize that you got to be down around the basket more, you got to rebound more, you got to set screens, you got to be more active. Stuff like that came as I was going. And, really, working with Rick and Lloyd and those guys and, Mike and Jenny, Ron, all those guys made it a lot easier just to, within our system, to be the 5 and to be able to work, amongst that group. So there was definitely an adjustment period. I think, honestly, I'm still adjusting. I haven't even had a full season under my belt at the 5, and, I think I'm just going to grow. I think I'm only going to get better, as I continue to learn the position more and to go back to what it means to be an NBA 5 at that.
While on this topic of the summer and fall, I go back to Media Day, and that's one of those days where I'm thinking about topics and questions we can ask players and use in November and December and January, and we've had a lot of Media Day interviews. I wasn't sure how to approach this one with you because I just didn't know how you would feel. How did you feel that day, and was there a point in time where this season it felt more right to be here and you weren't necessarily worried about what else was happening?
I think I was just like you, man. I didn't really know how to feel, how to approach things either. I was just gonna kind of walk in and whatever happened. And that's really what it was. I wasn't much of a reactor to anything. I got very thick skin. I'm someone who, like I said, enjoys the process of things, no matter how bad or good something can be. So you got a group of guys that work, man. It's made it so much easier to come in here and just put my head down and just do what I do for a living and just let everything else fall into place. So, I've really enjoyed just everything that's happened and to get me to this point.
It does seem like, being around you and talking with you, that you are at peace here and you're really developing a good relationship with this team. And can I specifically ask you about Tyrese Halliburton and the relationship you have with him and the confidence you have to go through the next few years with him and where you can go with him?
Yeah, he's going to tear this league up, man. I think that he's someone who should be a perennial all-star, this year and, hopefully for years to come. But, it's not just me, man. He makes the game easier for the guys around him, the coaches. Like, he just naturally brings out, I think, the best in people, the basketball savant at that. And when he's out there doing his thing, he just makes it look easy. And playing with someone like that is something you don't take for granted because it doesn't happen all the time. And you see generational talents like that. He's someone who still has some growth to do in his game as well. And I know that's something that he's very conscientious of, being with this organization, because like I said, all we do is work here. It's the culture and the precedent that we set for ourselves. So I really love, playing with him out there. He just sees everything, makes the game fun. And, personally, we're starting to build our relationship even more. I think that he's someone who, I didn't really get to talk to a lot last year, really, garner that relationship because we were here for such a short amount of time. But as the season progressed, we started to build that. And, now we get to build on that in the future.
You were talking about not being sure exactly what to think going into the season, and unfortunately, the first few games you had that injury right before opening night, and the team didn't get off to much success in the first 4 or 5 games. You came in, and then it was when things really started to uptick. And if you think about where this team has been when you have been on the floor and Tyrese has been on the floor, I don't know the number, but the record's really good in that scenario. I mean, does that kind of say to you, does that kind of underscore the importance of you, the importance of him to the bigger picture and to what you guys are building?
Yeah, man, it's a team. Not one person can do it by themselves. And, it's just it's a well-oiled machine. Everything has to be firing and clicking at the same time. And when we have our guys and we're healthy, I think we've shown what we're capable of, and we got to get back to that level. Post All-Star break is when a lot of those games start to matter, start to trickle down into the season. The records start to be the same and whatnot. So I just think that once we're healthy and once we get there, and I think Tice coming back soon as well is a big thing. I think that once we get our full roster on display, sky's the limit.
There was a stat that was making its way around Twitter about a week ago, and it was guys that have had, I think, minimum 50 post-up attempts, their field goal percentage, and you were in the top 10. And that was not always a strength of yours. It's turned into one. Can you take us through your development and just becoming what I'm sure you feel like is a much more complete player, and how even when you weren't always playing center, I mean, I guess it's been just really impressive, I think, to watch your growth in the post this year.
Confidence, I think, is a big thing with there. I spent my entire life playing down there, and as I've been through my past, few NBA seasons, I started to float out a little bit more just as a progression of what our offense was. But I think that, Big Al was someone I always give a lot of credit to. As you guys know, he was, one of my best guys that was here, someone who was loved around this organization. And, man, he just had a counter and a go-to. And, he always talked about that so much. And that's one of the things I've just started to establish myself. And it makes the game a lot easier just knowing where your spots are and where you're supposed to be. So I still know I got some growth to do down there as well. And something I'm not, satisfied with overall, but it's nice to see the recognition for it, I would say.
All right, well, it came with a prop. Okay, so this
Adidas jersey.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If you're a Pacers fan and you're looking at this jersey, Myles Turner's been here a while, right? Because this is, maybe 14, 15, or maybe even 15, 16. And then it has some autographs, so I was trying to, I think it's Ty Lawson.
Okay, that's Rodney Stuckey for sure right there.
Rodney Stuckey. I wasn't sure. I thought maybe it was Rakeem Christmas, but you might be right. It might be Rodney Stuckey. And then, of course, we've got PG, I believe, right?
That's me. I don't know who that is. Oh, my goodness.
At first I thought it was George Hill with the 3, but that looked like, I'm not sure.
We're going to have to look at the roster.
All right. I bring this up and I show this because this is my oldest son's jersey. Got the autographs himself. Now my youngest son can still wear it, and it's still Myles Turner with the Pacers. And in the NBA, there are so many players that change teams, and sometimes the season starts and you have to get to know players. You're in your 8th season. This contract takes you through your 10th season with the same organization. There are not a lot of people in the league that can say that. What does that mean to you?
It means, man, it really means everything to me. I was really just having this conversation with my sister the other day. I was like, for me, someone who's been around the city for so long, I've literally had a generation that started in middle school and might be in college now. Some of that's people that have watched me grow up their entire lives. And I remember Dirk Nowitzki was someone like that for me, being in Dallas his entire career and seeing him through, my entire basketball journey. So to be able to be that for kids around this area and just even in the state of Indiana itself in the Midwest is something that holds true to me, something I don't take for granted. And growing up here, I was a teenager when I first came here. I've seen the city change a lot. I've seen you see different buildings going up. Gainbridge right now is getting its own renovation. So it's really cool just being part of a journey. Not just a basketball journey at that, but a life journey. And I love it here in Indianapolis. It's always home. Someone that's always going to be home. For years to come for me. And I'm just happy we can get something done and spend the next few years building together.
And the people that are watching this or listening are the diehard Pacers fans. They're big Myles Turner fans, many of them probably in Turner's block over the years. So you're someone that hasn't just talked about the fans and said I appreciate the fans. You've shown your appreciation for how long? I mean, you remember when Turner's block started and the fact that it's still going strong?
Yeah, the fact that them guys are still up there and they stuck with me, being moved all around the arena and whatnot. And I still hear them up there making their noise and putting on for the city and Gainbridge itself, man. I just really am happy that I have those loyal supporters and they've never wavered. And, that type of support is something that makes a decision like this so much easier.
This question isn't so much extension related, but it's just something I've always wondered. When you came into the NBA, the league was very different. It was going through, I think, the transition to where you are, I think your skill set is maximized in today's NBA. When you were a kid and you were growing up and in middle school, I mean, did you have any realization just how useful your skill set would be? When you came out, there still aren't many players like you, but it was almost kind of like a unicorn type thing, whereas now you start to see more and more bigs that can do the things that you do.
Yeah, that's where I give a lot of credit to my father. I was one of those guys that just, wanted to stick around the basket, shoot my hook shots, my up and unders and whatnot. But he always made me work on my shot and my handle, like after practice all the time. And he told me like one day, like, bigs are going to be able to do everything. And then at the time, I'm just a punk kid, never listened to his dad. It was just like, nah, man, whatever. But, he was someone that's been an advocate of that for a very long time. And, it was like perfect timing. As I was transitioning into the league, the old back down centers are kind of transitioning out, and it was perfect timing. And I credit that to my journey as well. A lot of that was a part of that. Even my rookie year, I wasn't shooting a lot of threes like that. I was kind of around the basket, pick and pop mid-range, and was able to grow that part of my game as well, being in the league. So all that just came with it.
A question that he asked you in your general availability press conference was about your leadership as a whole, and it's kind of interesting because you're still relatively young in the NBA. I mean, you're maybe just starting to hit that point where you talk about people getting into their prime. But this group is so young, and you have been here from the beginning. Is there kind of an interesting, a unique dynamic at play there, whereas you're taking a lot more leadership on your shoulders than maybe a player in your age in a different organization might be?
Yeah, and it's like I'm like old in the locker room. It's funny, man. I joke with a lot of guys. They don't even know they don't know the music I listen to. Like they just they're doing their own thing. I don't know half the artists they throw up every now and then. Never thought I'd see that day, but being a leader in this locker room has been fun for me because it's just grown as the year has progressed. I think a lot of guys respect the way I work and respect the way I handle my business, and it's a lead by example type of thing, but I've learned to use my voice a lot more this year. When I speak, I feel like guys listen, and I feel like that's something that, it's just a credit to just me learning from good vets that I've had here as well and passing down the game. And that's what it's all about, man. When I'm transitioning out the league, these guys are going to be in my position as well, and I would hope that they do the same thing. So it's something I don't take for granted either, and I want to make sure that I'm a great role model in as well.
You ended the press conference saying, I want to put Indiana basketball back on the map. And you think back to the experience you had in some of those playoff series, but you didn't get to achieve that success. How important is it to you to make that next step? Because when you're walking from the Ascension St. Vincent Center through the tunnel to the locker room, you look on the wall and you see the photos and you see some of the things that this organization has been able to accomplish. How important is it for you to have some of that additional team success?
I just think a group like this deserves that chance. I think that getting back to the playoffs is a huge goal of mine. And getting there with a group like this, the guys that haven't had anything handed to them, guys that have had to work, guys that are consistently, coming in here and putting in the hours. And I think those are the teams that deserve to at least have a shot at it. And, you get there, and then whatever happens from there happens. You got to take this thing step by step. We have been to the playoffs the past couple of years, and the goal is to get there just in that postseason and just to feel what it's about and just just roll with it again, man. Just being a part of that Game 7 experience I've had, 2 Game 7 experiences I've had have been incredible. And I want to make sure everybody here gets to experience what it's like to be in that arena or that time of the year and just the vibe and the feeling that you get with being in the playoffs.
As we record this interview, 30 games remain, and now you have pen to paper, so there are no personal stresses or anything else to worry about. Can this team make that run yet this season and make that push towards one of those playoff spots?
Absolutely. I think that, especially post All-Star break where I said things get jumbled up, and as you guys know in this league, as the end of the season looms, that's when all them games start to matter more and more and more. I think that we're more than capable of, when healthy, putting ourselves back in that spotlight. And that's when things are going to get interesting. You got some guys that never been there before, and you got some guys that get to experience that, but you also got some guys like Andrew Nembhard and Benedict Matthew who have never played in the NBA before, and they're flourishing. So I got a lot of belief in what our young group can do.
Final question from me. You've been through a few different eras here, kind of the end of the Paul George era, Victor Oladipo's time here, and it kind of feels like with you and Tyrese and Ben and what this team is building, we're kind of starting this new era right now. What do you think it's going to take for a couple of years down the line when we're talking to you to have this group turn that into the type of success that you would like it to be?
Patience is definitely big. You know, we're going to go through our growing pains as we're going through a little bit now. I think just resiliency is a huge thing as well. You know, as you guys know, the NBA season is very tumultuous. It can do a lot for your body and a lot to your mental as well. And being able to handle the outside noise. You know, I think that when you have success and guys talking about all-star or sixth man of the year, this is that, that's the type of stuff can start to get toxic, you know, to manage, you know, our personal agendas and go out here and just stay connected. And one thing Rick talks about a lot is growing the golden goose, or, you know, the golden egg of us being able to be a group that has togetherness and our camaraderie. That's something you don't want to ever let break. And that's going to be a key as well. It's just us staying together and us continuing to, you know, keep our nose to the grindstone, just keep it rolling.
I wanted to end by saying thank you, because 8 years in, there's a lot of post-practice interviews, and maybe there's times that you aren't really in the mood to talk, and you've always taken, you know, every question seriously, given it a thoughtful answer, and really, especially, I noticed the wide-eyed rookie with enthusiasm to start. Maybe there was that point where, you know, the growing pains or maybe some struggles in the middle of your career here with the Pacers, and really the last few seasons. I'll put you on any of my top list of best interviews just because of how seriously you take it, and I think your message resonates to the fans as well. So I say thank you. I know Pat appreciates how seriously you take everything, and maybe at the conclusion, maybe could you just tell the fans and maybe even those around the organization what they mean to you?
Absolutely, man. You know, I'll start with both of you guys. You know, Pat and JJ, you guys have been here from the start. You know, you've seen me grow, like you just alluded to. And, you know, it's easy to kind of fall into the whole media play of asking these questions, doing this, and that. But, you know, your question is always sincere as well. So I appreciate you always being able to work with me. And all my days, he's taking it lightly. All my grumpy days, you know.
They were long ago, but there are only a few.
Being able to work with me and whatnot. And, man, there's endless, you know, names I can do to go down the list. You know, Carl and Josh and Patrick, those are the guys that I've worked with in the training room that have been able to manage, you know, my injuries and whatnot, and the things that have happened with me throughout my career here. And it's not an easy task, and I'm a lot of body, I'm a lot to take care of. And, you know, Carl, especially as a guy working on a day-to-day, takes a lot of good care of me. You know, Andy, Sean, Jason, those guys in the weight room as well. Andy's guy working on a day-to-day. Those are guys that, Andy for sure, you know, has been there with me in the start. He'll come and work out with me in the summertime. You know, that's a huge thing to me as well. Then you got your Zach Eagles and you guys like Country who take care of all our equipment. And Zach is just a Swiss Army knife, man. Just a guy that, you know, you need anything, you hit him at 3 o'clock in the morning, which I have. And anything you need, he'll, you know, take care of it for you. And then I've had multiple coaching staffs here, you know, just all my head coaches from Frank Vogel to Nate Bjorken to Nate McMillan to Rick. I mean, you know, they were able to help me get to this point as well. And they're all part of this journey. It's something I don't take for granted as well. You know, the Simon family, you know, I want to make sure I extend my gratitude to Herb as well. I think he's someone who's always had a belief in me. You know, we've had some conversations and some time to, you know, spend together as well. And that's been huge. You know, from Karen Atkinson to Michael to Jasmine, you know, all those guys in the player relations, you know, talk about grumpy, like dealing with us when we don't want to do appearances and events and all type of stuff. They're the ones that, you know, take care of everything for me. And there, you know, our front office of KP, Chad, Kelly, Ted, and all those guys that were able to, you know, help me get to this point as well. They sit down at every single practice. You know, you guys see them all the time. They're just around. You know, from our social media group to, you know, the Zach Hughes putting up with me when I don't want to answer questions about his TikToks and whatnot. And, you know, I want to give a special shout out to David Benner, man. He's another person who has been he was our, you know, our media relations guy before Mike Preston, and he's someone who was a huge part of my journey here as well. And, you know, my heart is definitely with him and his family. I got to give a big shout out to Larry Bird, man, the guy who drafted me, got me here. I think that he's someone who's also had a big belief in me as well, and someone who's helped me grow my game here. You know, Chrissy Myers and, you know, Wes Kaminsky and their staff. You know, Mike Preston, the guys now that are taking care of production and what you see now. And man, the list is endless, man. You know, I know I definitely left off of, you know, a couple of names here and there. And then lastly, to my teammates and the teams that I've been around over here in the past 8 seasons. You know, I've played with a lot of talent here. I've learned from a lot of guys here who've got me here to this point as well. And Man, yeah, off the top of my head, that's probably
That was
about,
impressive. I didn't mean for you to do that. But the book is not finished. Still writing the book.
Absolutely.
Yeah, most people don't even attempt that because they will leave something out. That was a pretty expansive list and a nice job. Well, congratulations. This has been very well deserved, and I know Myles Pacers fans are thrilled to see that you'll be back here for future seasons, and we both and they very much appreciate your time here. Congrats.
Absolutely. Thank you, fellas.